In a mansion that could rival a king's palace, sunlight poured through towering windows, bathing golden walls in warmth while chandeliers spun flecks of light across gleaming marble floors. Every corner whispered wealth, from intricate cornices to velvet drapes that seemed to hold secrets of their own. Yet, beneath the opulence, a silence hung heavier than the grandest tapestry. In the vast living room, where shadows danced with light, sat a little girl named Elara, her legs still as the stone statues in the garden, her eyes deep and quiet like a winter lake at dusk. At 7 years old, with hair the color of dark honey and a gaze that carried a weight far beyond her years, she was the daughter of Daniel Harlow, a man whose name parted crowds, swayed markets, and hushed boardrooms with a single syllable. His wealth could bend the world to his will, but it crumbled before the one thing he longed for most. Elara had never walked. Doctors from every corner of the globe had swept through the mansion's doors, their briefcases stuffed with credentials, their voices brimming with confidence, their treatments complex and costly. Each left with the same defeated shake of the head, the same murmured apologies. Her condition, they said, was rare, permanent. Daniel could buy private islands or fund entire industries, but he couldn't buy her first steps. If you believe in the kind of magic that blooms from compassion, in second chances that spark miracles, and in the power of hearts that shine brighter than any fortune, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Midnight Tales. Your support keeps these stories of hope alive, illuminating the world one tale at a time. Elara's wheelchair was both her throne and her prison. She loved watching sparrows flit across the balcony, their wings slicing through the sky, but she had never chased them. She adored the rhythmic patter of rain against the glass, but puddles remained a world she'd never splashed through. Daniel often stood in the doorway, hands buried in his pockets, staring at her as if his will alone could lift her from the chair. His life had become a relentless cycle. Boardroom victories, hospital defeats, fleeting optimism, and crushing heartbreak. Somewhere along the way, hope became a word he no longer spoke aloud. Then came a grey morning, rain tapping the windows like impatient fingers, when a new nanny arrived. Daniel had pictured someone older, stern, with decades of experience and a starched uniform. Instead, Maya stepped into the foyer, a young woman with a loose braid, eyes bright as summer, and a sweater with frayed cuffs that seemed to carry stories of its own. She didn't flinch at the mansion's grandeur or shrink under Daniel's imposing presence. Instead, she knelt beside Elara, her voice soft as a lullaby's opening note, "Hello, little dreamer." For the first time, Elara's gaze didn't drift away. She watched Maya, her eyes flickering with something new, curiosity, perhaps, or the faintest ember of trust. Maya didn't follow the rigid scripts of therapists or the cautious steps of past caretakers. She brought sunlight in the form of silly songs that echoed through the halls, unpolished laughter that bounced off the walls, and the warm scent of cinnamon from cookies she baked in the mansion's sprawling kitchen. She never mentioned walking, never pushed for progress. Instead, she wove worlds in Elara's mind, castles spun from clouds, forests where deer whispered secrets, seashells that sang of the ocean's depths. Some afternoons, she'd sprawl on the plush carpet beside Elara, both staring at the ornate ceiling, spinning tales that made the wheelchair fade into the background. Elara wasn't bound in those moments, she was free, soaring through stories where her legs carried her wherever she dreamed. Daniel, at first, didn't understand. He saw no charts, no exercises, no measurable outcomes. "This isn't therapy," he'd say, his voice sharp with frustration. "I'm paying for results, not playtime." Maya would only smile, her eyes steady but kind. "Before you move feet, you move hearts," she said once, her words soft but unyielding. Daniel hated vague answers. He was a man of numbers, contracts, and concrete wins. Yet he couldn't deny the changes creeping in like dawn's first light. Elara's laughter, once rare as a desert bloom, now rippled through the house in soft waves. Her eyes, once dim, sparkled with life. Her shoulders, once hunched, lifted as if shedding an invisible weight. Weeks passed, and one crisp autumn morning, Daniel returned home earlier than usual. The living room felt alive, sunlight streaming through the glass, painting golden paths across the floor. Then he saw it, Maya lying on her back, legs raised like a playful bridge, Elara balanced on her shins, held steady by Maya's hands. Elara's knees trembled, her toes gripped tightly, but she was upright, her face alight with a grin so wild it seemed to hold all the joy she'd bottled up for years. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. It wasn't walking, not yet, but it was more than he'd ever seen. Time seemed to pause, the world holding its breath with him. Unbeknownst to Daniel, Maya had been building this moment for weeks, not with demands or drills, but with joy disguised as play. Strength woven into silly games, balance tucked into bursts of laughter, trust planted in every shared story. She measured progress in smiles, not steps, knowing Elara's body needed to believe in itself before it could move. She hadn't told Daniel, understanding he saw success in milestones while she saw it in moments. And this was a moment that could shatter despair. In the days that followed, Maya nudged gently, always stopping before frustration could take root. Step by step, Elara moved, first with support, then less, then barely. The first time she crossed a room without holding anything, Daniel sank to the floor, his eyes burning, his voice lost. It wasn't about wealth anymore. It was about the sound of her bare feet tapping against the hard wood, a sound he'd once believed impossible. On the afternoon Elara took her first true walk, there were no cameras, no doctors, no audience. Just Maya, kneeling with open arms, and Daniel, frozen in the doorway, afraid to blink lest the moment vanish. Elara's steps were unsteady but fierce, each one a defiance of the word permanent. She reached Maya's embrace, and the room seemed to glow brighter, as if the chandeliers themselves were celebrating. Daniel knew then that money hadn't given his daughter this gift. Love had. Patience had. The courage to believe in the unseen had. If this story warmed your heart or stirred your soul, please like, share, and subscribe to Midnight Tales. Your engagement keeps these stories of hope burning bright for those who need them most. Before you go, drop a comment below with what this tale made you feel. Your words might be the spark someone else needs today. Elara's journey didn't end with that first walk. Maya stayed, her presence a quiet revolution in the mansion's polished halls. She taught Elara to chase the sparrows' shadows on the balcony, to splash in puddles after a storm, to feel the world beyond her wheels. Daniel watched, no longer the titan of industry but a father learning to hope again. He began joining them, first hesitantly, then eagerly, lying on the carpet for story time, laughing at Maya's off-key songs, marveling at Elara's growing strength. The mansion, once a silent monument to wealth, became a home filled with sound, giggles, footsteps, the clatter of cookie trays. Maya never called herself a miracle worker. She'd shrug and say she just listened, to Elara's dreams, her fears, her quiet wishes. But to Daniel, she was more than that. She was the one who saw what doctors missed, who found a path where others saw walls. Elara's condition, once deemed untouchable, was no match for the stubborn, joyful persistence of a heart that refused to give up. Months later, on a spring day when the balcony bloomed with flowers and the air smelled of possibility, Elara ran, not perfectly, but with a determination that outshone any falter. She chased a sparrow's shadow, her laughter ringing like bells. Daniel stood beside Maya, watching, his hands no longer in his pockets but open, as if ready to catch every moment. "You didn't just teach her to walk," he said quietly. "You taught her to live." Maya smiled, her eyes on Elara. She was always alive. She just needed someone to remind her. This story isn't just about a girl who walked. It's about the power of belief, the strength in small moments, and the way love can rewrite what seems unchangeable. It's a reminder that miracles don't always arrive in grand gestures, sometimes they come in frayed sweaters, silly songs, and a hand that holds on when hope feels out of reach. If Elara's journey moved you, inspired you, or made you believe in the impossible, please hit that like button, share this story, and subscribe to Midnight Tales. Your support ensures these tales of triumph and heart reach those who need them most. And please, in the comments below, share what this story stirred in you. Your words could be the light that lifts someone else. Let's keep the magic of Midnight Tales alive, together.